This is the second video for 8.2. So some more ellipses. So if you know, we're going to do the same thing we did before with this equation, but you may notice there's a little bit of a difference. In this equation, the bigger number, 9, is under the y squared. So it changes things a little bit because the ellipse is going to be oriented kind of up and down, right? It's not going to go along the x-axis, it's going to go along the y-axis. So we're going to sketch a graph as we go here, but a is still always the larger number. So I find a squared is 9. Even though it's under the y, a squared is always the larger one. So the square root of that would be 3, so a is 3. Now this 1 here is kind of interesting because you could even leave it off and still have it, but if you want it in the standard form where you can read off a and b, you should probably put the 1 there. And the square root of 1 is 1, so b is 1. So when I'm graphing this, so the a is under the y, so it's going to go up here for the major axis, and it's going over just 1. So this is kind of a pretty skinny ellipse here, right? So the center is still 0, 0, and if you skip down here to the vertices, you see this time instead of being over 3, it's up, right? So it's going to be over 0, up 3, and over 0, down 3. Those are my vertices. Okay, so C. It still has the same relationship of a squared equals b squared plus c squared, right? And a squared is 9, b squared is 1. So c squared is equal to 8. And c is equal to the square root of 8, which I could simplify and be equal to take out the square root of 4, so it would be 2 square root of 2. Okay, well, square root of 8 is a little less than 3, so it's going to be it's really close, right? And we kind of knew it was going to be because it's so skinny. Stop doing that. So that C is going to be really close to the A. And the foci go along with the C, right? So the foci are always on the major axis, and so are the vertices, right? So you know it has to go up on the major axis. So it's going to be over 0, up 2 root 2, and over 0, down 2 root 2. All right, the length of the major axis is still going to be 2a, right? We can still see it here with my long axis. So that's going to be 6. And the length of the minor axis is still related to the b, right? So that's going to be 2. The eccentricity is going to be 2 root 2 over 3. So that's our C over A. All right, and that's this ellipse. That's what we know about it. Okay, here's another formula, another ellipse for us. Notice again, the bigger number is under the y. So it's going to be another one that kind of goes lengthwise up and down, right? And that's where we get A. That 25, that's a squared. So a is 5. Now b comes from the 5, right? 5 is b squared, so b is the square root of 5. To find c, remember we're going to do the a squared equals b squared plus c squared, and a squared is 25. And let me just subtract. B squared is 5. And that will be 20. And so C is equal to the square root of 20. 20 is 4 times 5, so that's really 2 times the square root of 5. Right, so C is 2 times the square root of 5. Alright, center is still at 0, 0 because we haven't shifted anything yet. Alright, let me make a little space here and we'll draw our graph. So A is along the y-axis because the larger number was under y squared, so that's going to go up 5. So B is the square root of 5, which is just a little bit bigger than 2. Right, so okay, now, so my vertices, remember that the vertices and the foci are always on the major axis. So it's going to be over 0, up whatever, right? So over 0, up A, so over 0, up 5, and over 0, down 5. And the foci are also on there, and they're going to be up 2 times square root of 5, or remember it was the square root of 20, which is between 4 and 5. Right, so that's going to be over 0 up 2 root 5, and over 0 down 2 root 5. Those are my foci, so it'll be somewhere in here. The length of my major axis is 2a, so that's going to be 10. The length of my minor axis is 2b, so that's going to be 2 square root of 5. So I don't want you to plug these into calculators. I don't want you to get an approximate answer. It's better that we just have an exact answer. So leave all the square roots as the square root of 5. You don't need a calculator for any of this. The eccentricity is C over A, so that's going to be 2 square root of 5 over 5. Okay, and that is as simplified as we need to get it. Okay, so that's what I want you to do. So let's try one more. I think we have time to do one more on this video. Okay, so here's one more, and you notice this time the larger number is under the x. So it's back to the ones like we did in the first video. All right, so A is from the larger number. So A squared is 10, so A is the square root of 10. B is the square root of 4, so that's going to be 2. And when we find C, we have A squared, which is 10, equals B squared, which is 4, plus C squared. So C is equal to square root of 6, because C squared would be 6. Okay, so, no, we're not going to be able to do this exact on this graph, but our graphs are not exact anyway. Square root of 10 is a little bit bigger than square root of 9, which is 3, right? So it's going to be just a little bit bigger than 3. I'll go up 2, down 2. Okay, so my center is still at 0, 0. So my vertices, now this time we're back to having the vertices along the x-axis. So it's over A. Well, A is the square root of 10, so it's going to be over square root of 10, up 0, and back square root of 10, up 0. Okay, the foci are going to be on that same axis because it's the major axis, and it's going to be over 2. No, sorry, over square root of 6, which is bigger than 2, less than 3, somewhere in there. That's where our foci will be. Okay, so that's going to be over square root of 6, up 0, and back square root of 6, up 0. The length of the major axis, that's just going to be 2 times a, right? So that's going to be 2 square root of 10. We're going to leave it in square roots. The length of the minor axis will be 2b, so that's going to be 4. Eccentricity is going to be the square root of 6 over the square root of 10. And we could simplify that a little bit. This could be the square root of 6 over 10, which is the square root of 3/5. And when I rationalize the denominator, I get the square root of 15 over 5. Okay, so that would be it in the most simplified terms. Here's the quiz question for this video. So there's the ellipse. You notice that the larger number is under the y squared, so it will be going up and down lengthwise. I want you to tell me the vertices and the foci. I want them in ordered pairs, so they'll be in parentheses with the comma, and just put a comma between them. Don't put any spaces in there anywhere for the quiz.